What
All
are
right,
you guys?
everybody. I got 3:01, so I want to make sure we are conscious of everybody's time, so we'll go ahead and get going. Um, Good afternoon again, and thank you for attending the March meeting of the DuPage ROSC Council. My name is Jared Burton. I'm one of the ROSC coordinators. I'd like to take a moment, just remind everybody to please keep your microphones muted unless you are speaking. That would be a huge help. Also, we are recording this meeting, and we usually post the recordings of these videos on our YouTube page, which I found has been pretty helpful for those that aren't able to make it. And then, as Holly just said, if everybody could put your name, organization, and contact info into the chat, that would be great. We've been keeping a contact list and sending that out in our communication. So it's a great way to be able to connect with everybody after the meeting. So yeah, name, organization. If you're just a person with lived experience, you can put that in there too. So I kind of wanted to start off today's meeting by talking about some of the successes that we've had so far with ROSC. And these successes have been like pretty inspiring for me to see as we kind of build this program up. By my last count, and it could have increased, I did this count a couple of days ago. In the last couple of months alone, our ROSC coaches have been able to find treatment for 10 different residents at DuPage who are battling substance use disorder, as well as offering help with resources, brokering resources for about a half dozen more. DuPage ROSC members, including myself, will soon be in DuPage County jails, working with their population on reentry courses. And through the DuPage ROSC, and specifically Holly Brunton, the co-coordinator, we've been able to get training for 40 people in our Recovery Coach Academy, which is just amazing. And just on a side note, I did some assessment work recently just about the state of the recovery community in DuPage. And if you go on iAdapta's website, it's interesting. You can see a whole lot of CADCs and people who have masters in some of this work. But some of the other positions like peer recovery support specialist or recovery coaches, things like that, obviously not quite as many. We want to make sure that we're getting more of us trained and out into the community, because so far, just with a small amount of coaches through ROSC, we've been able to touch and help a lot of people. So that part of our program with the training has just been amazing. And later in the meeting, Holly's got the announcement for the next round of training, which we just finalized on. So that'll be pretty exciting. But I do think it's important to highlight these things just to show everybody some of the tangible stuff that we've been able to do with ROSC. We have meetings and we talk about what we want to do, but we also want to make sure that we're getting out there and doing tangible, having tangible effects on the community. Also, I've received like a ton of great feedback from members who've been able to connect with either resources or other members that have been at the meeting. There's a lot of us who maybe recognize each other's names, but have never been able to talk to us. So when I hear from a member that, oh my gosh, I've been able to connect with 3 other people from ROSC and get my clients and referrals, that's a really cool thing for us to hear, so that's super important to us. And all of this stuff can only help the residents of DuPage County. And what's exciting for us is like this is just the beginning. We've had a lot of really great successes, and we hope to keep that momentum going and build on that. So thank you everybody who's been a part of ROSC so far. We've got a great core. There's so many of you that just are great for this program and just super helpful. So thank you for that. I'm just going to go over the agenda here. Let me share my screen. All right, so let's just go over quick what we got going on today at the meeting. I'm going to just real briefly here in a second go over the minutes here from the last meeting. We're going to talk about our upcoming meetings and trainings. I've got a short video from the Peer Recovery Center of Excellence about what is a ROSC, and I'll explain why I'm showing that when we get there. We've got Liam Lipham from Faces and Voices of Recovery. I think Chrissy's here too. I'm not sure if I've seen her yet. But we're going to talk about some asset mapping and leadership. These are things that are very important as we build this culture of recovery, making sure we're able to identify leaders and looking at leadership as something that we are, getting familiar with as we, build things from the ground up. We're going to leave some time for organizational updates at the end because there's a few of you that have events. So I want to make sure that we've have those promoted. Like I said, Holly will go over the Recovery Coach Academy updates towards the end, and then we'll make sure we get out of here around 4 o'clock. So for those of you who were here last month, you'll know that we had our stigma reduction presentation by Diana Feeney. She did such a great job. The recording of that is on our YouTube page, and I will make sure I send a link to that when I send out my communications. I've been trying not to hit you guys over the head with those communications, but I think they've been helpful so far. So I make sure I'll send that out to you this week by the end of the week. We also talked a little bit about committees, and there'll be more information on this coming up. We will be contacting people. Don't worry about that. We've got some ideas for committees that we're going to start putting into action. And that was the thrust of that. So our next meeting, just put it on your calendars, Wednesday, April 13th at 3 p.m. We are going to have our man Bruce from Layden Family Service and the SHARE program, how stress and trauma impact development, behavior, and drug use. You know, it's coming up on Trauma Month soon. We just thought this was a really important thing to talk about. I've seen the presentation, seen the stuff that he submitted, and it's fantastic. So if anyone's had any curiosity about trauma and how that affects substance use and co-occurring mental health, I think you want to be there for that one. Also, you're welcome. Thank you for offering. And also, as we've been doing, and I've let you guys know this, we're having gatherings here at Serenity House. So I don't know if you can see behind me, but there are people here. We're still working out the best way to do a hybrid. It's kind of difficult, as I've learned. I'm doing the best we can with it. But we're having gatherings. So if you can make it here in person to Serenity House in Addison, please do, because after the meeting, from about like 4 to 6-ish, we're just going to have some fellowship time. Last month, there was probably 10 or 11 people who showed up. It was phenomenal. We got to have some really great conversations, and there were definitely some connections and networking done. So the idea from the beginning was to have this be an in-person thing. And because of COVID and just availability, we know that Zoom is important, but we'd love to see you out here. Because ROSC will definitely be doing a lot of gatherings and promotional stuff in the future. We want to see your smiling faces here in person, if at all possible. Let's see here. Okay, let me stop this for 1 second. So now we're at the part of our meeting, which is our presentation. If you've been at our meetings before, we had these folks out before, which is Faces and Voices of Recovery, which is like this amazing education and advocacy group for people who are in recovery. And they gave a great presentation before kind of on some of their services. And they're here today to talk a little bit about, you know, when we build a program like this, one of the things that we're examining when we're really building, you know, a community of recovery is how to develop you know, some of our assets and leadership abilities for members in the community who want to get involved and do their part with things like this. Faces and Voices do amazing trainings. They have great trainings available, and I'm going to be sending some out with the next email because it really encompasses everything. And one of the trainings that they do is about both asset mapping and leadership, which is just a very important thing for us. So they have come to give us kind of a smaller version of that. So we are very excited to have them here. I'm going to turn it over to Chrissy Jacob.
Thank you so much, Jared. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having us. I'll go ahead and get started and share my screen. And yes, this is a shortened version of our Innovations and Recovery Leadership Training. That training is actually 13 hours over 3 days. So this is kind of just a snippet of that. Give me 1 second and I'll go ahead and share my screen. And can y'all see that? I'm so sorry, I can't see anyone.
Yep, you're good.
Okay, wonderful. Oh, there we go. All right. Liam, you want to take this first slide?
Yeah, thank you so much, Chrissy. Hi, I'm Liam Lipham. I'm a training program coordinator with the National Recovery Institute, Face and Voices of Recovery. I work closely with the awesome Chrissy Jacob. So here we are giving you a presentation. We're very excited, and we're also excited to see you all on the future trainings. So I'm going to go to the next slide. This is a little bit of our training team. We just want to introduce y'all in case you hadn't seen all of our faces. I know a lot of you have already seen my face and seen Chrissy's. However, we do have Kira and Tony, who are also awesome, and their faces are a part of our team too. Next slide, please. So first, we're going to discuss a little bit about peer leadership development fundamentals. Pass it off to Chrissy.
Thank you, Liam. So leadership, leading others without using the power of force within your role. I think that's a beautiful definition right there. And some of the benefits of peer leadership development, consistency with recovery values and approaches. It incorporates the participatory process into supervision. So we constantly use our listening session model within our organizations to see what our peers need. We fill gaps in opportunity for many in recovery. We lay the groundwork for growing recovery in our communities. We do that by using our language, anti-stigmatizing language, and living our leadership ourselves. So, walking our talk. Enhances the team spirit through shared responsibility, and it just naturally drives performance improvements. And this is just a quick overview of how to recognize an emerging leader within your organization. These are some of their qualities. They have unique perspectives on universal beliefs that propels a group of people to move forward. So they're really thinking outside of the box. They have an inner drive to serve people or the world. They're highly motivated and inspire others with their enthusiasm. They're inspired by growth and innovation. And the best quality, they just love people. Liam?
Thanks, Chrissy. I like that last one. They just love people. So there are several modes to developing peer leadership. Some of them you can utilize are training, virtual learning, role playing, shadowing, peer advisory boards, highly recommend for emerging leaders, advocacy opportunities, co-facilitation of group, committee work, and event planning. And really what peer leadership is about is just developing leaders within your community and within the recovery movement so that they have the self-efficacy, which is the self-confidence, to be able to be a leader and lead by example, exactly as Chrissy said, but also inspire others to join. Because the thing with a really strong leader, a dynamic leader, is they inspire folks to want to be a part of the movement. And they also inspire others to just want to have compassion and empathy for those in recovery. So that implies if you have a really strong peer leader out in the community who's leading by example, even folks who are might have a stigmatizing view of those who use substances could be won over by this person, which is awesome and helps everybody. Next slide, please. So we're going to do a cool little small group exercise. This is just to get the juices flowing, get y'all talking, because I know we've been in meetings probably all day and just talking, getting talked at. So we want to talk with. So we're going to do a small group experience. It's a 5-minute discussion and then a report back. So how this will work is you will be assigned to a small breakout group of 2 to 3 other people. So that means you'll have a box that comes up on your screen and you'll click join and you'll go in a separate room. Don't leave the actual Zoom. Don't get scared if you've never done that before. It'll send you to the other room and you're able to talk alone with that person or people. And in this group, you will introduce yourselves and just let others know where you are personally exercising leadership. And this could be in your personal life. This could be in your professional life. Just let others know. This is a safe and brave space. So don't feel free to share anything that you would like. Everything that's said here and stays here. It's very confidential. So share as much or as little as you'd like. However, we do encourage you to participate because it just makes it more fun. We'd like you to also share one example of how you were impacted by an inspirational leader or when you first recognized yourself as a leader. So just to say it again, you're going to introduce yourself and let others know where you're currently exercising leadership. Then you're going to give an example of when you were inspired by a leader or when you recognize yourself as a leader. So we are going to, do you have a ability to do breakout rooms, Chrissy, as co-host? Okay, awesome.
Hey, Chrissy, I'm not gonna go in. I've actually got some people in person here, so I'll just lead ours over here.
And that's exactly what I was gonna say. Sorry, Jared, I forgot to add that part. I know some of y'all have folks in the background from you, and they might not have computers. So if that's the case, it's perfectly fine to talk to those folks. And if you do wind up accidentally getting in a breakout room with other folks, please try to incorporate them if you can. Things happen. I don't want to, exclude people. I don't want somebody to sit there and just stare at a blank screen or whatever. All right, so Chrissy's going to send you in the breakout rooms right now, and then we'll call y'all back in 5 minutes. That for y'all. Anyone want to report back on a little brief thing about what was said? Go ahead and feel free to unmute or raise your hand, whatever you want.
Jump in.
Yeah.
I'll go. I'll start the conversation going. So again, Jared Burton, coordinator, one of the coordinators of DuPage ROSC. When I got to treatment, I'm in longer term recovery. When I got to treatment about 4 years ago, my counselor at the time gave me like a recovery plan. What did you want to work on? And like I knew I had issues with drugs and alcohol. I knew I maybe had some co-occurring disorders, but there was some like heavier stuff on there. And one of them was leadership, because I felt like for so long I would kind of just try to hide, or try to just sit against the wall, let everybody else do something. And leadership was something that appealed to me. So what I did was just every time there was a leadership opportunity, whether I really wanted to do it or not, I took it. So that meant like, okay, well, I'm the peer leader, which means I oversee somebody with chores, even something as small as that. And then again, like I said, every time one comes up, I've taken it. And I think with leadership, if you're not a natural in it, and I was definitely not a natural, I still don't feel like I'm a natural at times. You just kind of lean into it, lean into the feeling of being uncomfortable at the beginning. And people will back you. If they see that you're passionate about something, they will recognize that. And they will continue to back you as you're leading them, and they will try to in turn take some of those qualities and maybe work on it themselves. So that was my experience gaining leadership abilities in recovery.
Awesome. And I thank you for sharing it. I like that. Yeah, Chrissy said, you don't see what we see. Sometimes we are our own worst critic. I am very guilty of that. I'm constantly telling myself things that I know are not true to be. Anyone else want to share?
I don't want to call anybody out, but I thought maybe Rebecca had something to share. Is that true at all, Rebecca? Would you like to share with us at all? I know I'm calling you out, B.
Okay. So basically I was in the room with 3 other women, and I was really inspired by everybody that was in there. One is a therapist business owner, and the other lady does training for different clinics around the Chicagoland area for people who may be addicted that just need like an evaluation. Correct me if I'm wrong, which I thought was really cool. And then obviously like Holly, I know Holly, she's the reason why I'm here pretty much. She introduced me to the recovery coach certificate, and I graduated. And then like, it's been a while since we've seen each other, but she's awesome. I know her personally. And then me, myself, I'm an anti-human trafficking advocate survivor. So I do groups for recovery on Monday at a drop-in center in Wheaton, downtown Wheaton. And then, also I have clients through Naomi's house, the house that I graduated from. So, yeah.
Thank you. That was amazing. And I would love to get your contact information. We have a wonderful adjunct faculty member, Shonda Santana, who has a beautiful, robust, incredible RCO specifically targeting sex trafficking.
Yes, of course. I'll put it in the chat. That's awesome.
I'll link y'all two together. Wonderful. Does anybody else have anything that they wanted to share? I'd love to hear, if you were impacted by somebody inspiring, or, the first moment you realized you could be a leader. Anybody else?
There's so many leaders on this call right now. It's
I know.
ridiculous. I'm looking through all of you.
This whole screen, a whole screen of leaders. Y'all are amazing. Stephen, do you want to share with us?
Yeah, I can share a little bit. Oh, and before I share my own, I was on in a breakout room with Donna, and we got a little sidetracked because she got to come see my project last week, in what I do with harm reduction services. And I just have to say, first of all, I identify leadership characteristics in her, in that I run a small family foundation. Our project, it does stuff, but it's not it's not these large foundations that I'm here with. And the fact that Donna came out and showed up, she came out before our project has fully gotten off the ground in terms of getting participants. And I just have to say, I think that's one of the biggest elements, is just showing up and connecting with people. I would say that much like Jarrett, I am somebody who's not a natural leader. I don't think that makes you a good or a bad leader. I think that just means that it's an unfamiliar feeling that you gotta, like he said, you gotta lean into it. I lost my twin brother in 2015 to an overdose. So I feel like this leadership position was something that was very much thrust upon me. And then I actually, my family wanted to do something about it, but really I met this woman named Chelsea Laliberty, who I'm sure many of you on this call have met before. And her brother had passed away some years prior to mine. And I was just amazed to see what she was able to do about it. And I still learn from her today. I actually just got off a call with her, but I feel like, just as Jarrett said, it really is a matter of just leaning into that uncomfortable feeling and reminding yourself why you're doing what you're doing, because everybody who's a leader is doing it for a purpose.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for your vulnerability as well, and for sharing that with us. Thank you so much.
Yep, and that always reminds me of what our director always tells us, like, remember your why. Like, if you can focus on your why, it'll always recenter you and make you and motivate you. And I love that y'all are leaning into leadership. That's awesome. All right, so we are going to have Chrissy share the screen again. Again, thank y'all for being vulnerable and sharing that with us. We really appreciate it. And we're going to get into discussing community asset mapping, which is super awesome. Share the other screen, Chrissy.
Am I not sharing this one?
We're on the presenter view.
Let me just stop. It's back. Sorry, y'all. I hope this works.
Cool. I'm going to pass it off to the awesome Chrissy.
Thank you, Liam. So the foundation of Recovery Ready Assessment is actually Recovery Capital. Recovery Capital is the breadth and depth of internal and external resources that can be drawn upon to initiate and sustain recovery from severe substance use disorder problems. And types of recovery capital, we have personal recovery capital, and that can be divided into physical and human capital. A person's physical recovery capital includes physical health, financial assets, health insurance, safe and recovery conducive shelter, clothing, food, and access to transportation. While human recovery capital includes a person's values, knowledge, educational and vocational skills, and credentials, their problem-solving capabilities, self-awareness, their self-esteem, their self-efficacy, and their hopefulness and optimism. And it's also the perception of one's past, present, and future, their sense of meaning and purpose of life in life. We also have family and social recovery capital, and this encompasses intimate relationships, family and kinship relationships, and social relationships that are supportive of recovery efforts. Family and social recovery capital is indicated by the willingness of intimate partners and family members to participate in treatment, the presence of others in recovery within the family and social network, access to sober outlets for sobriety-based fellowship and leisure, and recreational connections to conventional institutions like school, workplace, church, other mainstream community organizations. We also have community recovery capital. And this encompasses community attitudes, policies, resources related to addiction and recovery that promote the resolution of alcohol and other drug problems. And this can include active efforts to reduce stigma, visible and diverse local recovery role models within the community, a full continuum of addiction treatment resources, recovery mutual aid resources that are accessible and diverse, local recovery community support institutions. Those look like recovery centers, recovery homes, recovery schools, recovery ministries, and sources of sustained recovery support and early reintervention. So we also have cultural capital. And this is a form of community capital. It constitutes the local ability of culturally prescribed pathways of recovery that resonate with particular individuals and families. And examples of this would be our Indigenous people who have the Wellbriety movement. So I'll go to the next slide. Liam, is this you?
Yeah, thank you. So, in short, a community asset map is a map of the community a community assessment is an assessment of the community and what it needs. So first, when you're doing a community assessment, you want to start off with trying to figure out what the issue is that you're trying to solve and who the target population is. For instance, if I was going to create I wanted to do some type of smoking cessation program because I found that in my community, smoking was a huge issue. I'm first going to find out who I want to be affected by this program, because when we reel it in and we identify our target population, it allows us to do the most good. When we're targeting the community as a whole, if I just say I want to stop smoking cessation as a whole, that might not allow us to understand the motivation of everybody, because we can't hear everybody's voice at once. The community assessment really kind of reels it in. So I'm going to give you some examples that are on the screen of kind of questions that you would ask when you are beginning your community assessment. So one of the questions you might ask would be like, what services can be improved to meet the mental health needs of elders in the community? Notice I said mental health, and notice I said elders. So my target population is elders and my issue is mental health. I'm going to give another example. What outcomes are produced by suicide prevention community programs targeting youth and young adults in the state? What is the effectiveness of peer services for people experiencing transitions to and from the local hospitals? So again, this is me asking a question, and this is a lot like a scientific study. If you know about doing scientific studies, you first start off with a hypothesis. You start off with a general question of what you want answered. And this is kind of, if you will, our hypothesis that allows us to guide this community assessment. When we first ask this question, then we can draw upon different questions. I'm gonna go to the next slide. So there are 3 steps to recovery ready community community assessments. I keep saying community assets. So firstly, you want to do an asset mapping, which we're going to dive into here in a second. That's why I keep saying it. And we're going to do a literature scan, which is a literature review of all of the materials that might pertain to this particular issue. It might pertain to the population at hand. It might pertain to the actual population as a whole, so in the nation, and it also can pertain to the issue, because you want to have an overview nationally and a view regionally, so that you can hopefully compare your statistics in your region to the national region, and it kind of helps you gauge how big of the issue, the issue actually is in your community. And then we're going to do analysis of all of these findings through the asset mapping and the literature scan. Next slide, please. I'm going to pass this off to Chrissy.
Thank you, Liam. So now we'll dive into defining asset mapping. Asset mapping is the general process, a strength-based approach to identifying the human, material, entrepreneurial, and other resources in the community that supports a life in recovery for everyone. And often assets are physically mapped to show clusters of resources or gaps in assets locally. So what that would look like, you might analyze your human resources, and that's directly within your organization and your stakeholders. Material, this could be even in-kind donations, things like this. Entrepreneurial, I like to reach out to other nonprofits, maybe who aren't even in the recovery space, but I think the common goal tends to be that compassion for humanity. And so those are great stakeholders as well. And so we do have some examples of asset mapping. So you want to determine where local residents can access physical activity and purchase healthy food in a community. Identifying regional services that are in place for young people who are homeless or have been identified as being at risk of homelessness. And examine the current knowledge base and supports available to the regional workforce focused on primary and mental health integration. These are just examples of your initial ask, I think.
Yeah, let me add some more to this, if that's okay. Yeah. Also, I wanted to add, based off of this, so a general overview of the asset mapping is making sure that you're taking a comprehensive look at the current resources that are available to your community. And this slide in general is just saying, you're not only looking at the physical location, so where can this particular population obtain services? We're gonna look at who are the regional players, who are the champions in my community that are gonna help me with this issue, or who do I need to get on board for this issue? Maybe they're not a current champion, but they need to be a champion. For instance, your mayor. If your mayor's not a part of your initiatives and doesn't know what you're doing, you need to get them on board as soon as possible. Your county commissioners, any folks that don't know what you're doing, they might not be a part of every committee you have because their time is very limited, but you need to be in their ear to constantly be reminding them what you're doing as a whole, because it allows you to best leverage your resources. And then examining the current knowledge base is not only what do we know and what kind of programs do we have available, it's how are the systems in place. So maybe you're looking at a drug court. What are the systems in my drug court? What kind of rules and regulations do they have currently that don't allow people to receive proper care? Or how can we improve upon these systems to allow them to receive better care? What's preventing people from receiving help within the drug court? It's kind of looking at the overall system. Next slide, please. So that's a little sneak preview. We tried to cram as much information as we could in there to help y'all get started. However, you can learn more. We have many, many upcoming trainings, and I really, really want to highlight the Innovations in Recovery Leadership and the RCO Bootcamp because those really encompass both of these. I'm going to have Chrissy tell you more about those two.
So for Innovations in Recovery Leadership, this is a really dynamic training. You're going to learn, it's the very first day you take a DISC assessment, and it kind of analyzes not your personality type, but like your leadership style. And from there, you kind of learn how to integrate that into your organization and also build upon that. You want to have people around you that represent each type of leader, to have a really robust organization where nothing's falling through the cracks and we can all kind of use our strengths together in different areas. And it just really takes you through that. RCO Bootcamp, this is just my personal favorite training. Our instructor, our presenters are Owen Dougherty and Shonda Santana, and they're just absolutely incredible. They both have been absolutely imperative to the success of the peer recovery movement and RCOs. And their knowledge base is just, it's deep. It's the depth of it is just incredible. And they go through board governance, ethics, compassion fatigue, and just taking care of not only yourself, your organization, building your organization from the ground up so that it is sustainable, long lasting, far beyond our lifetimes. That's the goal there. And then do we have any questions? I know we're probably over time. I'm so sorry, Jarrett.
That's okay. I'll just say I've attended a few of these trainings, the RCO Bootcamp. I've done ethics, and I think I did one other one, but I highly recommend them. I'm constantly blown away at these things about how much new things and new pathways that I can learn in the recovery community. So they're a great value as they're free, right?
Yes, 100%
So
free.
you can't beat that price.
And it's not just for peers. You know, if you are within this recovery field at all, you will gain so much knowledge from these trainings. They are open and accessible and interactive for all.
I always like to add, like, literally, because we sit on these trainings all day, like we're tech hosts, we're facilitating. Every single time I learn something new, like every time, because it's 3 days and there's a lot of material being thrown at you, you don't quite get everything. And you always are thinking, like, it will just fire you up to be like, if you don't even want to start an RCO, you never have. If you go to this training, you'll want to start an RCO. Trust me. Every single time I'm like, should I start RCO? Because they're so good and it just gets you so fired up, and it gets you really in that innovation mind zone and mindset, and thinking about different ways in which you can help develop your organization. So I highly.
And I just wanted to add really quickly that Faces and Voices is offering Illinois residents a lot more than just trainings. We have technical assistance available and mentorship. And you can email us if you're interested in any of that. And we can do something as simple as, do you have a transportation waiver? Yes, we do. Here you go. Or it can be something incredibly complex, like, hey, could you help me with some strategic planning for my organization and 5-year goals? We can do anything, little, small, big, huge, and in between. I'm also going to put a link in the chat to our all our available free trainings for Illinois. So you can go to that link and sign up for whatever you like. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I know we're kind of running short on time here, but if anybody has any questions, I'll put their contacts in a follow-up email. They're also in the chat. Thank you both for being here again. That was phenomenal. We're always happy to have you here. I wanted to make sure that we had a few minutes here for some organizational updates, because a few of you had reached out, wanted to talk about some things that are going on. The first person that I want to turn it over to is Sarah Breithaupt, who's the Director of Youth and Family Services in Lisle Township, because she has an event coming up tomorrow, actually, that we want to make sure that y'all are aware of. So Sarah, are you there?
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Jarrett. There it is. We are having a brief introduction to suicide prevention. It's going to be tomorrow at the Village of Lisle Boardroom at 925 Burlington Avenue. We've also made it hybrid as well, so I can send the link to you after this meeting. I've saved the chat so I can send that out, but it's going to help in terms of understanding, recognizing the common risk factors and warning signs in others, and in ourselves and in others too. So, you know, if you've been watching the news, and it seems to happen every year with the new year, there's been a lot of very public suicides. But of course, it's a problem that's with us all the time. So we wanted to do something about that and get the word out. We're partnering with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention on that. So thank you very much for letting me speak.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I'm going to make sure I'll put the link in there too for information about that. I have also wanted to touch real quick with Donna Foyle, who is in charge of the recovery home programs at Serenity House Counseling Services. Donna, you there?
I am here.
And we have a wonderful event coming up this weekend that has been 2 years in the making because of COVID. So I'm going to let you talk a little bit about that event on Saturday.
We have an alumni group here at Serenity House. Clients that have completed, whether it's the halfway house or outpatient, they're automatically a member. But, you know, because of COVID, we haven't been as active as we were prior to it. But finally, we are going to have our quarterly pancake breakfast this Saturday. It will be here at Serenity House. We begin serving at 8:30. We have an amazing speaker at 10. We have pancakes, eggs, sausage, bacon, coffee, juice, milk. It's just a great social time. We want anybody and everybody to come. It's $5. Basically, it's all you can eat. We have a great group of volunteers cooking this year. We have a 50-50 raffle as well as a lot of basket raffles. And what we do with the proceeds, they go into the alumni fund. So we can do events. They've done a roller skating night. They've done a huge picnic where we invited family and friends. And there's no cost for these events. So it's just such a good day though. I can't even say enough. And the speaker we have this time, he's got quite a story. He's one of the most upbeat people I've ever met. And he's been in recovery for, I want to say 4 or 5 years now. So hopefully you can come. It truly is worth it. Bring kids, bring family, bring friends, anybody. Let your coworkers know, because we do it, the more the merrier, truly. And we finish serving about 10:45, 11, and then people just go home very full and happy. So I hope you can join us.
Thank you, Donna. And I put the address in the chat. So it's 891 South Rawling in Addison. So try to come out. There'll be some ROSC members there for sure. You know what? We're running short on time. I want to make sure we get to the Recovery Coach Academy stuff here in a second. But is there anybody else organization-wise that has a need or wants to give a quick promotion to something that you're working on? I'd be happy to give you about another minute here if you got something you want to point out.
Sharon, it's Andrea from College of DuPage. Can I just take a minute to talk about our new program?
Please.
Yes, it's in the patch today. Yesterday they sent the ad out, and college got funding from the state where we have a tuition-free, book-free, totally funded 1-year, 16 credit hour program to become a certified recovery support specialist. So I'm going to put my email in the chat box, and you're welcome to email me. I can send you an application, and I can give you information about it. I don't want to take time up today's meeting, but it's totally free and state supported, to where tuition, childcare, transportation, et cetera, we wrap the students. So we're pretty excited about it.
That's great. I think the more trainings for stuff like that, the better. So yeah, we'll make sure we get the contact information out for everybody. And I see it there in the chat. All right, as always, if you have an event or you have something going on that you want to share, you can send that to us. And real quick, let me show you. We put it on the DuPage ROSC page. Holly very nicely keeps this up to date. It has information about our meetings. And then down here, you can see there's information about the community over here. So stuff right now about Recovery Corps, Opioid Response Network, the alumni breakfast we mentioned, and then we have some things about our upcoming meetings and trainings. So we're constantly updating that. So if you have information you want to share, please send it to us, and we'll make sure we put it on DuPageROSC.org. All right, so Holly, I'm going to turn it over to you for a second here while we update everyone about the upcoming CCAR training. So let me get the screen shared up here, and I'll give it to Holly Brunton.
Hey everybody, super glad to be here, and I'm really excited to talk a little bit about the Recovery Coach Academy. Jarrett, can I share real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool.
I'll stop my share. You go ahead.
Cool. Okay, so let's see here. It's gonna look messy for 1 second. Can you see my screen? No. Now you can, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a little information about the Recovery Coach Academy. It is free aside from the book that you need to pay for, which is about $50. And it's a super interactive, experiential training that we have on 3 consecutive Friday nights and Saturday days. This next one coming up in May will be actually in Aurora, so we can welcome some of our neighbors into the Recovery Coach training as well. I know that Jarrett already pointed out the DuPage ROSC, but I just want to show you really quickly on the events page that I just updated. right here, you'll see, I'm gonna try to bold print the stuff that's coming right up. If Andrea, if you send me any information, and Sarah, if you send me any information on your projects, I will be happy to put them up right away. This is something I can update every week. And we hope to see you. Thanks.
Thanks, Holly. You know, the spots for the Recovery Coach Academy usually go pretty fast. So if you would like to take part, please just reach out to myself. And like I said, I'm going to attach that flyer that Holly was just looking through in my follow-up email. But it's interesting, you know, we've been doing them here at Serenity House, but we're really excited to branch out and have them over, you know, right across the border in Kane. Because as you know, recovery does not stop at a geographic area. You know, this is DuPage County ROSC, but we're really about everybody in the surrounding area. So we got about 1 minute left before we close. Was there anything else that anyone wanted to bring up? Any burning desires or any opportunities you wanted to mention?
Hey, this is Holly again. I just wanted to really quickly say, you know, all the people that I see here, whether you've been in recovery for years and years, or you're just joining us, we're glad to have you. And just you being here as part of our ROSC council, that lets me know that you are a leader in your community. And we need you, and your community needs you. And this is not about what Serenity House can do for you or what any one particular agency could do for you. It's about all of us collaborating together to serve the people that need the help. We all had people help us. Let's get it out to the community.
Thanks, Holly. So we appreciate everybody coming. We'll be in touch in the next day or two with follow-up with all of that information we learned today. It's usually the email right after the meeting is usually jam-packed, so be on the lookout for that. And if you all have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We will see you again on Wednesday, April 13th at 3 p.m. For our presentation from Bruce Sewick on trauma and how that relates to recovery. So we're looking forward to that one. I'm going to stay on just for a couple minutes afterwards in case anybody needs anything. Other than that, y'all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Love y'all.
Thanks, you're awesome.
Thank you. Bye.